Hello, my name is Emma, and my camera might die, but I really want to make this video, so we're going to see what happens. Also, my hair is so fluffy. I need to cut it. And I feel like a potato, or just potato fluffy hair. So this is another Emma Gets Real video. It's sort of a part 2, or elaboration. Elaboration doesn't even sound right. Elaborating on my last video. Collaboration. On my last video, which was an Emma Gets Real, or my last Emma Gets Real video, which was about my struggles with mental health. So in this video, I want to talk about something specific to that, which is this feeling, or this idea, of feeling broken. Something that I think a lot of people who struggle with disability deal with. Physical or mental, any sort of disability. I think people who struggle with disability think that or feel that. And I'm not an expert about mental health. I'm not an expert at any of this, and I'm just coming from my own experience. I want to say that and just be really clear. But I have felt this way probably my entire life. I felt like I was broken. And that sounds really dramatic, and at times it was traumatic, but most of the time it was not something I even thought about. It was just something that I knew in the back of my brain, that I was broken. There was something wrong with me. You know, from a very young age, the fact that all of my friends were really unafraid to climb trees and run really fast, and were unafraid to just kind of open their arms up and spin around or whatever it is. They were just unafraid, and I was always really afraid. I was afraid of getting hurt. I was afraid of something bad happening, and that was because of having, you know, really high anxiety from a very young age. But I remembered feeling like, oh, there's something wrong with me. Why can't I do this? Why can't I just let go of this anxiety and just do the thing that all of my peers are doing? Why can't I be like them? Or being in high school and all of my friends, not being afraid of driving. And from a very young age, I had this, 11 or so, had this really serious, intense phobia of driving. And when I was pretty young, just being in cars in general, but, just being so afraid of driving. And I don't really fully know where that came from. I got into a very minor car accident when I was a kid, and I like to think, or I imagine that's where it came from, but I don't really know where it came from. But I had this really intense fear of driving, and I still do to a large extent. And all of my friends were getting their license, and I would be like, oh, I'll get mine. And I remember being really committed, because I didn't want this fear to control me, and being like, I'm gonna learn how to drive. And I remember going out with my father at 16 or 17, and I live in sort of a hilly near mountains area, and driving and getting onto a mountain road and just freaking out. I mean, having a panic attack. My worst fear coming true, which was having a panic attack while driving and just almost blacking out, and my dad having to drive like this the rest of the way, and just feeling like, why can't I do this? What is wrong with me? Why can't I get over this thing that's controlling me? And for an example of driving, it makes it harder because people will think that I'm lazy. People will think that I'm just not driving because I'd rather people chauffeur me around everywhere. When the case is I have extreme guilt about that. I have extreme guilt that people are going to be upset and people are going to feel like I'm using them or whatever it is. But it's very difficult to explain to people that I'm not lazy, I promise you. It's just literally being a car or driving makes me want to throw up. It makes me feel so anxious to the point where it's almost debilitating. But this idea when people get upset with me or get angry with me or feel or tell me that I'm lazy or whatever, or whatever it is, or say, what's wrong with you? That fuels that inner self-hatred and that feeling there's something wrong with me, I'm broken, I can't drive a car. Every time I'm in a car, I freak out. Or every time I'm driving, I freak out. And that's something I'm working on, because I would eventually to be able to drive a car and get around myself and all of that. But that's another huge example. There are so many examples in my life where I have felt really broken, and I have felt like there is something wrong with me. And part of that is that society has very rigid expectations for people. They have very rigid expectations for every aspect of life, for how a person should be. And we know this. Like, whether it be the way a person has sex, or the way a person eats, or the way a person drives a car or doesn't drive a car, or the way a person, like, whatever it is, people have very strict ideas of how those things should be and how normal looks like. And what I'm saying isn't revolutionary in the slightest, but I still, a lot of the time, subscribe to those normative ideals. Those ideals that society has taught me from a young age. That has taught me that driving makes you an adult. That has taught me that if you don't drive, that you're lazy. That has taught me that, I have to have children. Has taught me that sex is heteronormative. That has taught me, etc., etc., etc. And that's really harmful. And that perpetuates this idea that when I don't meet those expectations, that I'm broken. And sometimes those expectations aren't met because of my mental health issues and the fact that I have OCD and I have anxiety and I have depression, but it also comes from the fact that sometimes I just don't meet the expectations, and it has nothing to do with my mental health. It's just the way that I like things or don't like things. I'm, like, for example, a pretty picky eater, and this is gonna sound whiny and kind of stupid, and see, I'm already doing it, but there's some foods that I just really don't like, and I'm very picky about what I eat and what I don't eat. But growing up, I live in the South, it was very like, if you don't finish, and I also have a very small appetite, and I don't eat a lot. And it was very much like, what's wrong with you? Why won't you finish all your food? Why don't you like salmon? Why don't you like this? Why don't you like that? And blah, blah, blah. And it wasn't coming from my parents, and none of this ever came from my parents, but it came from, like, other people that I was around. Like, okay, are you anorexic or something? Why won't you finish that food? Like, those kind of, like, disgusting things that are thrown at young women because they don't do the things that are normal or whatever. And it's tough because I deal with this all the time. I deal with this feeling that I'm not normal and that I'm broken in every aspect of my life. Like, for example, I had to leave school because of my mental health, and I talked about that. And when I've been to 3 colleges. One was a community college. But people will be like, you've been to 3 colleges? Like, what? Or they'll just pass a lot of judgment, or I feel like they're passing judgment, and I feel like that's not normal. I should have just gone to 1. I should have stuck it out, blah, 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 blah. No one's going to want me to go to their graduate school. No one's going to want me to hire me because I went to 3 colleges. And that's so silly, and I know it's so ridiculous, but that's just the way I feel. And I feel like I'm broken because I didn't go to the correct amount of schools. I didn't just go to 1 school. I don't know, I could give you like a million examples of feeling just not normal and feeling like I'm broken. And that's such a bummer. Like, that's such a terrible feeling. And I'm getting emotional thinking about it. But, I think just self-acceptance is so difficult, and telling yourself that it's okay, and also knowing that those things about yourself that maybe don't meet society's expectations, sometimes, like, you want to work on those things, but it's difficult to be like, am I working on them because I want to work on them, because I need to work on them, because I know that I will feel happier if I work on them, or am I working on them because society keeps pushing it down my throat that I need to work on these things? And that's another sort of daily battle that goes through my head. I don't know if we even talked about everything I wanted to talk about, but that's just sort of where I'm at mentally, and I wanted to share that kind of thought process, and I would love comments about, I don't know if you're comfortable sharing your experiences with this feeling. Again, I'm coming from a place of serious privilege, and I know that, and I'm very aware of that, and I want to be clear with that, but I think it's important to talk about this and call society on its crap when it's making us feel like we're broken. And I'm sure that I miss things. But yeah, anyway. I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye.